Okay, we want to take this complex number and raise it to the fifth power, and sure, you could multiply it by itself 5 times, but that would be kind of annoying. So before we go and do that, I'm going to convert the complex number to the polar representation. So from the rectangular to the polar representation, and there are a couple of things that we need for that. We need to kind of draw a real quick little diagram. I'm going to do it over here. And remember, 6 plus 6i would be over in the first quadrant, right? And we'd head 6 to the right and 6 up, right? And so the radius, or the modulus, I'm sorry, that's what it's really called, is 6 radical 2, right? And then to find that actual angle, you would do tangent of the angle is 6 over 6, which is 1. So theta is, of course, pi over 4, because that is what gives you 1 in the first quadrant. So to rewrite this, you are going to write it as 6 radical 2 times the cosine of pi over 4, plus I sine pi over 4. Okay? And what you can do now is, because we've written the polar representation, you can take that entire thing and you're going to raise that to the fifth power. And if you remember, that's a little bit easier, because what you're going to do is you're going to take your 6 radical 2 and you're going to raise that to the fifth, and then it's going to be the cosine of, and you're going to multiply 5 times the angle that you had there. So 5 times pi over 4 plus I sine times 5 times pi over 4. Ooh, sorry, I'm getting a little messy there. I'm trying to keep it a little bit smaller. So 6 to the fifth power is some crazy big number. It is 7776. And then what you're going to have is you're going to raise your radical 2. Oh, that's terrible. You're going to raise your radical 2. There you go. We'll just do one of them. Up to the fourth power. And so what you do is you've got your 7776, times basically radical 2 to the fourth power times a radical 2, because you want that left over. And of course, that's still going to be times a cosine of 5 pi over 4 plus I sine 5 pi over 4. All right, so what you really have then is that big number is really 31104 radical 2. And then you're going to multiply that. And if you were leaving this in polar form, you would just actually leave it with cosine 5 pi over 4 plus I sine 5 pi over 4. But we're going to actually convert it back to rectangular form. So this is going to be a negative radical 2 over 2 plus a negative I should say, radical 2 over 2. All right, so when you distribute this, you're going to distribute it to both, and the radical 2 times a radical 2 is radical 4. Square root of 4 divided by, or square root of 4 is 2 divided by 2. Basically, that whole thing just cancels out, and you're left with a 31,104. Oh my goodness, my numbers are not working right now. Okay, so when you distribute, you get a negative 31104 minus a 31104i. 1104i. Okay?